Hello and welcome to our GDG Tech Sessions. Today we have yet another episode with a lot of great content. Before we get to that content, I would like to remind you that all the previous talks are online on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, and you are more than welcome to browse, binge watch, do whatever you want with those, and that's all there for free, available for you. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Look us up at GDG Tech Sessions and enjoy all the content. We have quite a few talks from the last year when we started the whole series, and also from this year as well. Very different content, lots of really fun talks. We have more than 3,000 views already. We have over 150, getting closer to 200 subscribers. So we would love to have more subscribers, even more. That would be very nice. So subscribe, watch us, and probably a few words about the team, and then we can get started. So the team of GDG Tech Sessions is Carlos, Fernando, and Diogo from Madeira, from GDG Madeira, and also me, Rustam, from GDG Cloud Oslo. And together we are putting together this really fun thing called GDG Tech Sessions. Without any further ado, I think it's time to mention our speaker for today. That will be Adrián. He will be talking about testing web accessibility, and just one tiny little thing is that you're more than welcome to ask questions, and ask questions at any time. Put them in the chat into YouTube, and use the chat to say hi and all the other things, and we will answer your questions at the end of the talk. So with that, I think it's time to say hi to you, Adrián. It's really great to be here, to have you here, and to like to thank you for being with us.
No, thank you for inviting me to share some of this important topic like web accessibility.
Fantastic. That's I think I will leave the stage, and I will let you do a bit of maybe present yourself, talk about yourself, about your topic, and all the other things. See you.
Well, thank you, the GDG Tech Sessions, for inviting me. And today we are going to talk about testing web accessibility, or how to make sure that the code that we write is producing an accessible website or web application. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Adrián, or Adrian. I'm from Madrid, Spain, but I live now in Vienna. I'm part of the GDG Vienna, and I'm a Google developer expert in web technologies. And I'm currently working as the accessibility software engineer at GitHub. And I'm a strong accessibility advocate. I truly think that this is a very important topic. And you can find me almost everywhere under my surname. So let's talk about accessibility. And the first question that we could think is, what is this A11Y that we always see when we talk about accessibility? This is the international name for accessibility, and this is because there are 11 letters between the A and the Y in the word accessibility. So now you know, and then whenever you see A11Y, you know that this means accessibility. It's so obvious that in the real world, these 4 situations are completely wrong. So the first 2 situations are a super steep ramp where someone with a wheelchair is using very, very bad. The third one is a ramp with stairs at the end, and the fourth one is completely useless ramp. Let me put you another example. Someone arrives with a wheelchair and press the accessible button. The door opens automatically, but surprise, there are stairs at the end of the door. So this is completely wrong. But it's not so obvious when we move to the online world, when we talk about web accessibility. When we talk about web accessibility, we normally talk about tools, about websites, about applications that are designed to everyone to be used. So we need to think about this when we develop. Let me put you an example in this online world that we were talking. You are in your favorite e-commerce shop, and you maybe want to learn where to find your latest purchases. So you call the support team, and then they can tell you something like, oh, you need to click in the button in the top right corner. Or you want to change your email address and you don't know where to do it. So they can tell you, oh, you need to click in the button with the engine icon. But for someone who is blind, there's no such as engine who looks like an icon who looks like an engine or like top right corner. So again, we need to think about when we develop our websites, our web applications. We normally think, or it is a common mistake to think that web accessibility is only for blind people. There are different types of impairments, and we can classify them as temporary, permanent, or situational. And we can see that we have different ones. But it's true that when we develop an accessible website, we normally focus on visual deficiencies. A bit of numbers. In 2019, we were about 7.7 billion. In last year, we went up to 7.8 billion, and globally, it's more than 2.2 million people who have a near or distant vision impairment. So when we develop a e-commerce and online shop, we want to reach as much customers as possible, or as much users as possible. And this group of people are your customers as well. So you need to be able to build a product for everyone so you can reach as much customers as you want. So we are going to talk about testing the code that you're writing. And testing, you can find automate tests, which are very good to free up your QA team or your manual testers to avoid, so they don't have to test everything manually. But it's not magic. They cannot make your website accessible. As well, we need to think that only 20 to 50% of all accessibility issues can be found by automated tests. And we need to think about the automate tests as a longer and a larger process where manual tests are as important as this automate test. So let me give you some of the advices that I would give to myself, or the things that I use every day that helps me when developing an application. So the first one is test your code while you develop. So since I've been working with React for the last 4 years, I think, or 5 years, I've created a small React application with 3 small components. The first one is a button. The second one is a fake button, which is an anchor link with a role button which you should never do. And the third one is an image. And in the main point, in the entry point of the application, I put a bunch of accessibility errors, and let's see if we can find it. So the first library that I want to talk about is Axe Core. Axe is an accessibility engine built by DQ, and they have a React library, so you can use it in your React application. If you use Vue, there is as well a library, not officially by DQ, but someone did it, and it works very good. And I'm sure if you work with Angular or Svelte or any other framework, you can find it easily. So let's see how it works. You need to install it as a dependency of your application. And you need to make sure that you only use this library, or you import it and execute it only when you are in an environment which is not a production environment, because you don't want to expose those vulnerabilities to everyone. And what is this library doing? This library is passing this accessibility engine we've been talking, so Axe, and is creating a report that you can see in the console of your development tools in your browser. What we can see here is what is the error that is appearing. What element in my HTML on the DOM structure is provoking or causing this error. We can see as well the severity level. So we can see minor, moderate, serious, or critical. And as well, we can see a link with the documentation that DQ put together. So you can find more information about this issue and how to fix it and how to prevent to do it again. The second tool that I would recommend you to use while you code is a linter. And if you use ESLint, you can include the plugin for accessibility rules, and you just need to extend the recommended rules for accessibility. In this case, a linter will tell you when you're breaking these rules directly in your code editor. You can see this wavy red underline, and then if you hover with your mouse, then you will find all this information in the code editor. And as well, you can see this information in the terminal when you execute your application. If you test or if you develop your components, if you're developing a design system in an isolated environment, you can use Storybook. You don't need to worry about what framework you're using, either if you're using React, Vue, Angular, web components. It doesn't really matter. Storybook supports a lot of things, but Storybook has an accessibility plugin, and I wrote an article about how to use this accessibility plugin in Storybook. You can go to my blog and read about this. What else can I recommend you to do? Use the development tools of the browser. So either Chrome or Firefox has a lot of accessibility tools built in, and one is this color picker. So when you inspect an element or a text element, let's say a button or a text inside an alert toast or a modal, you can click in the small square with the color of the text, and you can find this color picker. And in the middle, you can see this contrast ratio with a score, and AA and AAA. Those are the standards that the W3C has set to determine if the color of the text and the color of the background where this test is located passes these two standards. And you can see it as well in Firefox. They have the same. So like this, you will find out if the color contrast of your website is correctly done. Another tool that they have is the accessibility tree in the accessibility inspector. And you can find the accessibility name of all elements, especially interactive elements. You can see if you use an ARIA label or ARIA label by, or if you have a content inside a link, and if it's meaningful enough for screen reader users. As well, you can see this information in Firefox. So use these tools that they are built in the browser, and you will find a lot of information about your interactive elements. What else? Write your own unit test. In this case, I used a library called Jest. It's a JavaScript library to build or to create unit test. And in this case, again, we're using the axe library, the axe family. We need to install it again as a developer dependency on our project. And we are ready to write our own unit test using jest-axe and React DOM server. What I'm doing in this small test is converting my whole app to a string and launching this string to the Axe engine. And of course, I expect to have no violations. So when we run npm run test or yarn test, depending on the package that you're using in the terminal, you will see the results of this test in the terminal. And again, since this is Axe, the results are pretty similar to the React Axe library. We have what is the error, we have what element is causing the problem, and a direct link to DQ University, which is the official documentation again, to find out more about this issue. We mentioned automate tests, and we can see what tools we can use to create automate tests. But let's see first the tools. Again, we are back to the Axe family. In this case, we have a CLI, a command line interface, and we need to install it globally this time in our machine. And we can use it putting Axe followed by the URL that we want to test. And in this case, it's going to be a headless Chrome instance who's going to perform all the tests, and we can see, again, pretty similar results. Very similar application or library is PA11Y. As well, we need to install it globally, and the grammar is the same. We need to say PA11Y and the URL that we want to test in the terminal, and it's going to execute, again, a headless browser. It's going to perform the test, and we are going to see all the issues in this website. In this case, we can see an extra field, which is the principle of the WCAG that is violated, but we don't have a direct link to documentation. So you need to do your homework and Google this issue and learn more about how to fix it and how to prevent to do it again. So you will not have this issue again. You don't need to test this against any server or any URL that is already deployed. You can test against your local host. But you may think that, look, I have a lot of URLs to test. I don't want to test one by one in the terminal. So PA11Y has an extension called CI, and you can create a config file with an array of URLs. So you can test the different URLs in this, or you can put these URLs into an array in this config file. The good thing here is you can put actions. You can state actions. You can wait for an element with an ID or a class to be loaded in the website. You can click and navigate to a new website and take screen captures. And in this case, you just need to run PA11Y -CI, and it's going to look for a config file in this folder, in the folder that you run in this command, normally in the root folder of your application, and it's going to run the 3 tests. After that, we're going to have the same results with the PA11Y. So we're going to have what is the error and which element is causing the error. And as well, we can see in the root folder these screen captures that we are taking. We can use them for reporting purposes, or we can use it for visual regression tests. So we can use it for a lot of things. Another library is Lighthouse. Lighthouse is a library developed by Google and is included in every Google Chrome browser. But you can use it as well via the terminal. So again, we need to install it globally in our machine. Same grammar before, Lighthouse followed by the URL. And in this case, I'm using --view because I want to launch the HTML report at the end. But the difference is, in this case, we are going to run a full instance of Chrome, not a headless one. And you can see all the tests that they are going to do. They're going to do performance test, responsiveness test, accessibility test, low internet, a lot of tests. And at the end, we are going to see this HTML report. And we're going to see a score in the accessibility section. And we're going to have some information here. Again, what is the error? What element is causing this error? And in this case, again, we have a direct link, which is this learn more, to the Google documentation on what is this issue and how to fix this issue. Now we've seen some tools that we can use for automating our tests. But if your repository, if your code is hosted in GitHub, you can use GitHub Actions to perform these tests automated. GitHub Actions are workflows that execute different tasks depending on the action that you state in this GitHub action. For example, you can create GitHub Actions to perform these workflows every time that you generate a pull request to your main branch. In this case, these files need to be written in YAML, and they need to be hosted in the .github/workflow on the root folder. So I wrote one GitHub action for every tool that I show you. So one for my unit tests with Jest, one for Lighthouse, one for Axe, and one for PA11Y. And I said, I want these actions to be executed every time that I make a pull request to my main branch. So every time that I make a pull request, I can see those actions running. I can see that in the first three, they are red crosses, but Lighthouse has a green check. This is because Lighthouse is not a testing library, it's a reporting library, and you need to evaluate the report manually. But the other three, they are a testing library, so they can pass test or fail. And in this case, they are failing. So what I can do is to click in details, and I can go to the GitHub action in particular and see what tests are failing and again, how to fix them. For Lighthouse, I mentioned that it's a reporting library, so you can see the full report. And again, click in accessibility, you can read a bit more about those issues. I wrote an article a bit deeper about how to set up all this infrastructure in your repository. As well, you can constrain the merge button so your pull request needs to have all GitHub actions green to be able to merge your branch to the main branch. Like this, you will avoid putting code that is not accessible into your main branch, so in production. But we mentioned at the beginning that only 20 to 50% of the accessibility issues can be captured by automate test, and we need to consider automate test as part of a larger process where manual tests and simulating tests are as important. So I'm not gonna talk about simulation tests like right now, but the best simulation tests that you can do are using screen readers or using your website with a keyboard to start with. But I'm going to show you some extensions for your browser where you can find some of the accessibility issues that your website has. All these extensions are in Chrome and in Firefox. I'm using Chrome in this case, but they are all accessible and available in Firefox. The first one is, again, back to Axe library. They have an extension. You can find it under the development tools of the Chrome, or any browser, Chrome or Firefox, and you just click in Analyze, and it's going to make a full analysis of your website. Again, pretty similar results as we saw in React, Axe, or in Jest, or directly in the terminal. And you can see what is the error and what element is causing the error and how to fix it. Very similar tool is ARC Toolkit. So you can find that as well under the development tools, and you just need to click Run Tests. You can see a lot of families of elements in HTML, and in this case, I'm going to click in Images, and we can see if you can find some errors in images. We see that we have some images without an alternate text, and in the window we can see highlighted these images, so we can easily find which ones are the ones that they are failing. Accessibility Insights is an extension built by Microsoft, and I'm going to show you one feature that this library has. And this extension, is going to build a tab map. So you can start tabbing, and it's going to create a map with numbers. And why is this important? This is important because the tab order of your website, the navigation of your website, using a tab key, needs to be consistent with the content of your website. You need to understand that some visually impaired people are navigating through your website using a keyboard and not a mouse. So they use the tab key to jump between interactive elements, links, buttons, forms, input fields, etc. So this tab order needs to be consistent with the content of your website. Wave is another extension, and is a very complete extension. So you can find it in the extensions tool, bar. And once you click it, it's going to perform a test. You can see a lot of errors here, the alternate text on images. You can find as well errors in the heading structure, H1, H2, H3, if they are consistent as well with the order. You can see a lot of contrast ratios, errors in colors. We can deactivate the whole styles of the website, so we can see if the DOM structure is built correctly. Or we can click in code and we can dig a bit more into the HTML code directly. So you have a lot of options in the browser. So to make a summary of the advices that I gave you today, I would say that you should start with testing your code while you develop. You will find a lot of issues right directly in the code. You can use the browser development tools that they are built in, either the color picker or the accessibility tree. You can generate your unit tests, or you can automate your accessibility tests using Axe or PA11Y or Lighthouse for reporting purposes, using GitHub Actions if you have your code hosted in GitHub repositories. And you need to do manual tests, either with extensions in the browser or simulating tests using a screen reader. The small application that I built at the very beginning is in my GitHub profile. You can find the slides of this talk in the speaker deck, in my speaker deck profile. You can pass by my blog. I normally write about accessibility and front-end development. I want to take advantage of this talk and recommend you this Introduction to Web Accessibility course. It's a course that is built and is done by the W3C officially. So it's the official community that sets the standards for HTML and CSS. And you can find it for free under the platform edX. It's not only for technical people, so everyone can take it. And it's a very good opportunity to start learning about web accessibility. And I want to leave with 2 sentences that I think summarize the meaning of accessibility. And he said it's not just about disabled users being able to access your website, it's about everyone being able to access your website. Because we saw at the beginning that there are different types of impairments. We can see permanent, temporary, or situational. So at the end, we are not evaluating who is using our website, because it doesn't really matter, because we don't know our users and our customers. And since we don't know them, we need to build a website accessible for everyone, independently on who is the one who's using our website. And why I said that? Because accessibility is not a feature, because no diversity and no disability are an option. They are not options. So we cannot treat an accessibility as a post process or we can do this later. We need to include accessibility in every phase of a product, since from the idea phase, the design phase, the requirement phase, the development phase, and the testing phase, we need to include accessibility. It could be color contrast in the design. It could be adding ARIA attributes during the development process, or it could be using automate test during the testing phase. But we need to make sure that our website and our web applications are accessible for everyone, because if we do this, not only we will do a better internet, but a better society and a better world. And that's everything. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was really, really great talk, and really interesting topic. I think it's both interesting and actually a very, very important topic, because it's I don't know how it is in many other countries, but in at least in Norway where I live, it's at least governmental organizations, they are kind of obliged to do that. They support the kind of the accessibility and all the other things. So it's a really important topic on many in many ways.
Yeah, I mean, there are some European laws where some companies are obliged to be fully accessible. For example, all governmental websites and any other website that they are publicly funded needs to be accessible. Privately, of course, they are private, so they can do whatever they want. But if they are publicly funded, they need to be. And if they are not, they are going to be fined. The problem here is that the fines are so small that the company sometimes prefer to pay this. Unfortunately, I said, because again, I think this is more as a moral discussion more than a technical discussion.
Absolutely.
So if a company decides to pay this fine and not being accessible, that means that they don't really care about this group of people.
Yeah.
So I think, yes, there are some European laws, but they are not strong enough, or we haven't worked on those yet as we should.
There is a question in the chat from Nicholas. The question is testing part is made by people with disabilities. So I'm not really sure how to read the question, but I suppose, I don't know. Do you have any takes on?
Yeah, I can imagine what Nicholas means. So we can for sure make tests with people with disabilities. I would not say we consider this group of people as a testing part, but mostly as a usability. I mean, yes, it's a testing part, but it's more a usability test. It's more a usability workshop to be able to find not only the mistakes that you're doing in your website, but mainly the correct way of doing the things. Because, of course, you can put yourself in the skin of someone, but you will never understand fully how this group of people are using your website using a screen reader, because you're not a screen reader user.
Exactly.
So not only, but it's very, very beneficial to and if you have the opportunity to contact any, for example, a blind association in your country. There's always a national one, or people with color disability, for example, protanopia or color blindness, or maybe cognitive disabilities, or maybe someone wants to volunteer, or not only volunteer to
Actually work.
make exactly like as a work, to make a usability test to your website. But the testing part that I've seen that I've shown you today is fully for everyone. Any developer can do. It doesn't matter, again, any disability, because all these tools are fully accessible. So you as a developer need to take your part on doing this testing part.
Yeah, because I know that several companies, like bigger companies, they do actually hire people. I mean, like as regular employees and everything, with some disabilities, to do the accessibility testing, to do it in more proper way, because there are things that we might not think. I mean, if we can get help from other senses that some people might not have, we can in a way cheat without being aware of that, right? So
exactly.
But yeah, so it's actually a very, very good idea to offer positions. If you work for a company and you're doing this, that might be a very good idea to consider outside for many reasons. I mean, there are many reasons for doing that. But,
the W3C itself, they employed a lot of people with disabilities. I know personally a developer, a blind developer who's working in Microsoft as well, and they normally employed a lot of people with disabilities. So I think is a not only benefit. Again, we are talking about universality here, so it doesn't really matter your disabilities. For sure, you're a good professional.
Yeah,
so,
and I mean, I think it's also important part from the kind of the point of view that different people will bring different points of view. I mean, they will have different opinions, different views and things, and
exactly.
To have as broad spectrum of people as possible. I think that's a very, very good idea. And another thing that probably worth mentioning, I think you mentioned that already, but just to underline that, is that we need to think that a lot of people, there is no like either zero disability or 100%. There is all kind of shades of of the, like, different grades of the disability, or how you can call it, and you need to think about that as well. I mean, some people just need a little bit of contrast, some people need much more contrast, some people think a little bit of lack, or a little bit of color thing, right?
We are all diverse. We are all different, and when we talk about permanent or temporary or situational, that means that my diversity today could be 10%, but my diversity in 1 hour or tomorrow or in 2 months could change. It could change again. It could be situational, and let's make an example. So a physical disability could be situational. If I have my kid in one hand, and I need to use the computer with only one hand, so that means that I need to navigate a website via keyboard. That could be situational. Temporary one is situational because it could take 10 minutes or 1 hour. We consider temporary if I break my arm. That means that it's going to take more than 1 hour or 1 day. It's going to take maybe a month. And of course, permanent is that I literally don't have one arm. That means that is a permanent one.
Yeah, exactly.
So we can not only focus on permanent disabilities and permanent diversity, and we always forget about this situational or temporary temporary diversity. Again, if we're talking about visual one, then you can go to the doctor and then your pupils are or you make a test and then you cannot see in one eye, or maybe you give a, I don't know, you hit something with your eye and then you cannot see for 1 hour, and then exactly this moment you need to buy a flight and then you need to go and you need to make some important thing, I don't know, go to the website of a bank. And so at the end we need to think about these groups of people as well, which again, we are part of this group of people.
Exactly. I mean, thing I usually notice myself is that, I mean, it cannot be compared to anything really. I mean, it's just, you know, sometimes being even tiny little bit, I don't know, how should I say it? Maybe you can say just to call it lazy or something. You know, sometimes I just want to stick to the keyboard. Sometimes I just don't want to switch between mouse and keyboard. And then I would start like tabbing around on the website just to hit the right link, because I know it's technically should be like 3 tabs away. And then I get sent around on the website in all directions. And then you kind of get really, I mean, for me, it's okay. I can work around that. But, you know, for some people that need to have this right order of things and everything, that it might be a very, very, very bad experience.
Yeah, and until you don't do this, again, I'm going back to the beginning of my talk, and we said that it's very obvious in the real world. You go to a building and you don't have a ramp, and you see someone with a wheelchair, and it's obvious that this is wrong, right? This is not accessible. But when you go to a website and then you use it with your mouse and then you see perfectly, and it's good. But until you don't have the necessity and the need to say what you said, like, okay, I forgot my mouse at home and I don't have a trackpad. Now everyone has a trackpad, but and it's broken and I need to use a website with a tab. Then is the moment that you can see, damn it, this website is very inaccessible to you, that you are changing your diversity from 0 to 1%, which is only using just accessing a link via a tab. And again, I'm not talking about contrast ratios, a link when you want to use a mouse, so a link when you want to use a button, so you cannot literally click a link, or a non-interactive element with a click handler. You cannot use it with a keyword. You can only click. But when you're focusing with a keyboard and then you click enter, only buttons can perform actions on enter or space, depending on your keyword, but no other non-interactive elements with click handler. So this is where you moment when you are frustrated because you cannot do whatever you want to do. Imagine having this frustration, and again, situational, for 1 hour, for 1 month, or for the whole life. So it's very good to put yourself in this situation. I recommend everyone to, from now on, spend only 10 minutes going to your favorite website, the one that you use every day, Twitter, Facebook, Amazon, whatever you want, and only use it with a keyboard. Just forget the mouse for 1 second and say, okay, I'm going to try to access everything that I access. I'm going to go to Amazon and I want to purchase something. Perfect. You know that you want to buy something. This time, buy it using the mouse. Let's see if you can do everything that you want, that you would do with your mouse.
And actually, the good thing that you mentioned social media like Twitter and stuff, it's when we post things there, we should probably think about accessibility there as well, because I mean, the site is built for accessibility, but you know, if you post a picture, how do people know what you, and then you're writing something, on in the context of that picture that you posted. You should, there is actually a field where you can add the alternative, alt tag thing for the picture, and you should probably do that. I mean, if it's Twitter or whatever else.
Not only probably, but you should do this every time.
Yes. And
Instagram the same. So you can edit the description of a picture. What you just said, like imagine that you write a tweet and say, as you can see in my picture, and then you are referring to something that in the picture, you need to write an alternate text to the image. That means a description. And again, you are literally telling someone who is blind, what appears in the picture, not what it means, not happiness, not sadness, what it means. So what it is. is a woman or a man crying. It's not sadness. It's literally in the picture is a woman or a man or a kid or whatever crying, or a dog playing with a ball or whatever. The same with icons. I see a lot of tweets with emoticons and a lot of ASCII characters that a screen reader is gonna have some hard time reading, and the user is gonna have hard time understanding. So we need to think about this as well.
Yes. And if I can like leave people with some kind of at least one wish or one thing that I can ask us as developers, all of us really, is to, everybody kind of thinks of, I don't know, unit tests or integration tests and all those kind of things as a normal commodity thing that you just have to have in your test. You have to run them automatically. You have to check if they're working. You have to have some kind of coverage and, all those kind of things. And that's kind of normal. Not many people would be kind of think that it's totally a crazy idea to do that, right? I would like to ask people like us as developers actually try to think about the accessibility part as well and put that in the same level as the other tests, maybe even higher, and do that on a regular basis. Like, oh, we broke this thing because we changed CSS style shits, and now the contrast is much lower than what it is, the levels of access, okay levels for doing that, and then okay, we have to change that. Or something else, and do this kind of things, do that regularly. I think it's a very, very good idea, good hygiene as a developer to do that kind of thing.
Exactly, yeah. And I think the best way to do this is always question everything. So when you create a button, question yourself, is the text in the button meaningful enough? So is close meaningful enough? Is X meaningful enough? Is
Big enough?
safe? Exactly. Is safe meaningful enough? Like a screen reader user is going to know what we are saving, or we should put save item or save the item into the cart or add item to the cart. Context, color contrast, meanings, everything. Question everything that you're doing.
Texts, right?
Alt text, exactly. So this developer that I were mentioned before, blind developer who works in Microsoft, I always mention that when I talk to him, sometimes he said like, look, if you in your website has a picture of a man of a woman naked, and then you put an alternate text who said a dog playing with a ball, for me, you're putting a picture of the dog playing with a ball. So you can use it to trick me.
Yeah.
But so you need to question yourself, is this meaningful enough for a screen reader user? Of
And
course,
the other thing,
if you use a screen reader, way better, but question yourself.
And it's also the important thing that probably not that many people are aware of, if they haven't seen screen readers in action, is that usually screen readers go at crazy speeds. For us that are not used to that, they go at much, much, much higher speeds. I mean, they read much faster. For like, if you're not untrained to use those, for you it might just sound like, oh wow, what happened here, and you actually don't hear the whole text. But so that's another actually surprising, maybe a fact that for people who have never used or seen a screen reader.
I recommend everyone to watch a talk of someone who's using the screen reader. In this case, this person is called Juanjo Montiel, but there's like more people who's demonstrating how to use a screen reader. Not only because, of course, in a talk you will see it in a lower speed and then you will see it, but if you want to try it, every operating system has their own one. So if you're using macOS, you have voiceover. If you use Windows, you have narrator, and if you use Linux, you have Orca. So you can use them,
and your phones have
experiment with them, and then you can use it not only for your website, for any application. If you're playing a game, if you're navigating through your folders and pictures, everything. So you will see how a screen reader user will literally use a computer, and then you can put yourself in this scheme.
That is a very, very good point. And again, thank you very much for doing this. It's a very important topic, and for discussing it with us and showing us examples and showing us how it's to do. And it's always great to meet another GDE, like fellow GDE. So that's really cool, and keep up the really good job. And also, thank you very much for our people watching us, for Nicholas and the others, for asking questions, for commenting, and for listening, for being with us.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you so much for thank you very much for that as well. I have one more slide, and yeah, well, I don't have that slide. I think that's fine. There is wait, give me a second. Yeah, there it is. Now I have the slide. So if we can switch to my slide, is that I have one more thing left to show you, and that's how to find us. So please do find us on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Search for Tech Sessions. We'll be there, and subscribe and follow us, and we will be announcing more interesting content very, very soon. And again, thank you very much for our speaker and for our people watching us. See you soon. Bye bye.